Hey folks, it's Tetragon, rather astounded that the last video did so well. I was thinking it would be an out-of-the-way game to record, much less start a series on it, but we grew from 25 to 32 subscribers as of writing this, though I hope it grows to be more than that by the time you see this episode. And the video views are way more than I expected. Way to knock it out of the park, folks. Sincerely, thank you. But this opening section isn't to just have me yap about how great you guys are. I need to yap about some things I missed when I did the first video. I wanted to add an addendum to why I got rid of Rule 9. It's because I just genuinely forgot that minions existed. You know, like the entire reason the myth school exists. That was my bad. I'm going to change it to no henchmen, which are effectively really stupid powerful summons that you can buy for crowns, which are a premium currency. Trust me, I've played Myth before. I was just running off 4 hours of sleep and had a big test to take the next morning. Sorry for keeping this segment so long. I just want to introduce some new things, mainly a level cap, and for Wizard City I've decided to make it a cool 15. If I go over the cap, which I'll try not to, I sincerely apologize. I don't do any grinding off camera, unless it's to maybe reach the level cap and not die because I'm hypothetically level 9 against a boss suited for level 15s. Now with the Yap Fest out of the way, I think it's time we get into the actual video. Again, sorry but it had to be done. To kick things off, we're back in Old Town, the place we left off at after the whole skirmish in the pet tower thing. I walked through the gates of Triton Avenue and am greeted by rain and thunder. Lots of both, or essentially, we're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I need to clarify this is a joke. If you live in Fort Lauderdale, hello, I hear it's raining over there. Furthermore, some generic storm wizard called Arthur Griffinbane asks a random magical child for help. Where am I seeing a pattern? But not before I am immediately instructed by Gamma, the tutorial owl with a cool voice actor, to look at a teleporter I won't be losing, because convenience is for nerds. Arthur tells me that things aren't going well down on Electric Avenue, because some towers are screwed up and creatures are roaming the streets. Of course, I, as an unwilling video game protagonist, am forced to help. In order to get across the river to safety, Arthur, who I might add, was standing in plain view of an enemy, and said enemy could have wandered over and made this episode a whole lot easier to produce, but that's okay, tasked me with killing 3 haunted minions, who are, in reality, just people who have suffered from the unloaded model curse of the wooden golem. I didn't know Arthur's hobbies included murder, I just thought he liked standing around in stupidly dangerous places. But enough of Arthur's criminal record. The fights await! The minions themselves are rather easy fights, except with a few key differences. They've got 135 health, which is the exact same as Rattlebones from Unicorn Way, and they've wisened up to my tricks of cheesing them with balance spells, as they are now balance school themselves, and it's enough to convince me not to prioritize spells of the same type, even though I later realized that a wiki exists for this game, and that they don't really have any resistances. Like, at all? They're sort of just stronger enemies that can cast Scorpion if they manage to survive long enough to get 2 pips, even though I can usually erase them from existence in that amount of time, or even with 1 Thunder Snake if I roll its max damage of 135. They can't even dish out that much damage, so it's the sort of thing where they're laughably easy. I won't make you sit through the full length of this, so I'll just show you a battle with them and then skip to when I've finished the quest. After beating up some unfortunately cursed folk, I returned to Arthur, resident expert in putting people in danger and doing nothing to actually benefit anyone. Instead of finally pitching in anything of use, he tells me that his sister was kidnapped and says that as he was fleeing towards the river, I theorize that the guards might have gotten a tip that he was hiding from the murder charges here, meaning it wasn't only haunted minions that were chasing him. He saw an electric eel with his sister Susie's wand in his mouth, so we need to go grab it. That's when Duncan Grimwater, the mildly sensible yet shady death wizard, who is also a Malastare apologist, interrupts our thrilling dialogue of Archer being useless by effectively saying that he can do some ritual in order to get a vision of where Susie might be, if we could get a wand back. And because he's an NPC, and this game's story is questionable at best, he has access to plot magic, the hidden 8th school in this game that was so broken at launch that King's Isle removed it from the game, and you just don't remember it. Source, trust me, bro. So I set off to go fight an electric eel, wondering if at some point I'll unlock a hidden side quest where I get implicated in a war crimes tribunal for aiding and abetting a Malastare apologist and someone whose side hobby is killing people afflicted with a curse. Best not to think about it, because if I do, I'd only give them more evidence. And besides, most side quests are banned. I'm sure the Wizard City guards will understand and absolve me of everything. Now, it's important to understand just how difficult these electric eels are, which is to say, they aren't if you kill them fast. They have a pretty nasty spell called a natural attack, which is basically a unique animation enemies can do that has a variety of effects. For example, the eel's natural attack does a flat 260 storm damage, which isn't very fun to deal with when you have 591 health maximum. But it's a 2-pip spell, so the tried and tested strategy of killing it fast is, as mentioned before, applicable here. It also has lightning bats, which it doesn't use but has the potential to do more damage than its natural attack. I kill it fast and return to Malistare's #1 fan, Duncan Grimwater. Of course, things aren't as simple as I'd like them to be, and for a bit of meta context, this recording is 59 minutes that I'm editing down into something a bit more viewer oriented. That should tell you that Duncan isn't done with me, and I done can't ever catch a break in this world. He says that Susie is still alive. It's a kid's game. Nobody really dies except for when Arthur says so. But he needs me to gather 3 storm amulets from the rotting fodder in a different part of Triton Avenue in order to send me Susie's GPS location on my Oculus Quest Arrow. I ponder for a brief second just exactly what Duncan will do with the amulets once they're done, but most of it leads me down a path that I don't think the illicit black market that 100% exists in Wizard City would like. The rotting fodder themselves are basically just electric eels to electric boogaloo, so I'll just speed through a fight in the footage. No reason to bother you guys with it when nothing eventful happens in any of the battles. This might be a good time to say that I take suggestions for how I do these videos, and also for anything you need clarified or want to see added to the challenge. I'm just one comment away if you need me. As for what happens when I return to Duncan. prime water, he rubs the amulets together along with a wand or something in order to produce a vision in which we see nothing. Apparently, Duncan's free trial ran out on the magic plot ritual, and to continue, I need to fork over a charged Lumina crystal if I want to continue with the quest. And those are unfortunately not handed out frequently, unlike fetch/kill quests, which are handed out like candy, because everyone hates everything here, but is too lazy to get up and do something about it. They're made at a local mill, and so I go talk to the Blad Raveneye, who was the coolest NPC name I've seen so far, yet it's wasted on a generic mill owner. The rotting fodder themselves are basically just electric eels to electric Boogaloo, so I'll just speed through a fight in the footage. No reason to bother you guys with it when nothing eventful happens in any of the battles. This might be a good time to say that I take suggestions for how I do these videos, and also for anything you need clarified or want to see added to the challenge. I'm just one comment away if you need me. As for what happens when I return to Duncan Crimewater, he rubs the amulets together along with a wand or something in order to produce a vision in which we see nothing. Apparently, Duncan's free trial ran out on the magic plot ritual, and to continue, I need to fork over a charged Lumina crystal if I want to continue with the quest. And those are unfortunately not handed out frequently, unlike fetch/kill quests, which are handed out like candy, because everyone hates everything here, but is too lazy to get up and do something about it. They're made at a local mill, and so I go talk to the Blad Raveneye, who was the coolest NPC name I've seen so far, yet it's wasted on a generic mill owner. Blad tells me that the undead stole all of his charged crystals, probably to go see if they can use it to make a pickaxe that can mine obsidian or something. He could grind another one for me out of his stock of raw ones, but they also just took the gears to the mill and threw them in the street. While he seems unusually calm about his entire business being in shambles, I am outraged at the heinous crime these undead have committed: littering. I don't care about Malistaire because he's a threat to Wizard City. I care about Malistaire because he's ordering his minions to litter. Even if we do get the cogs back, it isn't enough. His magic lightning rod doesn't have its primary coils, which were stolen by some Scarlet Screamers, an enemy I'll touch on in a bit. As I'm scrolling through these quest objectives, some chat box shows up from someone named Michael, and their message of oops makes me laugh for some reason. Me too, Michael. Me too. I set off to collect the cogs needed for Blad, cartoonishly fuming about how they threw the cogs on the ground and left them. To my detriment, I forgot to fight a rotting fodder while collecting the cogs. They're just stronger electric eels when you get down to it, but I'm never safe in Wizard City. The Scarlet Screamers, who are strangely myth school when everything else is storm school, give me my first near-death experience when one of them casts a myth trap on me to reduce my defenses against myth spells, then proceeds to cast Troll, which is a pretty good myth spell, and it almost does half of my health in one attack. Needless to say, I am absolutely terrified of anything that can actually do damage, and so I hastily use Scarab to cast Terra, bonus points if you know the reference, on the Screamer, finishing it off and then forcing me to play extra cautious when near the Screamers, to not get Troll comboed into oblivion having to restart this entire run. In the second battle, however, some random player decides to join in, meaning I have to flee the battle or risk being a hypocrite and breaking my own rules. This means I have to walk all the way back to that area from the commons, and I lose all of my mana and have to refill it. Thank you, Surrey Sunspear. Please never join my battles again if you're watching this. On the way, I buy an Athame, a fancy kind of ritual dagger that boosts my maximum health. I won't ask why they're selling those, but something tells me Artur is a frequent buyer. I quickly dispatch the remaining Scarlet Screamers and return to Blad. I single-handedly save his entire business by fixing his mill as he fixes the lightning rod, and I pull a lever to get myself a charged Lumina Crystal. I return to Duncan, and he shows me and Arthur a vision of Susie, who is engaged in a fierce staring contest with the Harvest Lord, a spirit from the underworld who steals the souls of people who lose staring contests. He's in Galvanos Tower, once the site of the not so well known Spiral Stare Off, where Ambrose lost his other eye and had to cover it with a monocle and get a magical replacement. I march off to Galvanos Tower to hopefully win the staring contest so that Susie loses her soul, and I can watch as Arthur slowly becomes William Arthur and stuff some poor souls into wooden golem bodies. Once there, I meet a fellow wizard named Tanner Fossil Planter, who will soon become a great friend to Corin Cursetether, our protagonist. I ask Tanner not to join the dungeon and to allow me to solo, so that I don't have to worry about breaking Rule 3 because I don't want to be torn apart by the YouTube vultures. I quickly friend request this rather nice fellow, and he quickly accepts, and even decides to try and trade me some treasure cards for future use. I do not accept these, however, as that feels disingenuous to the spirit of the Nuzlocke, and also so I can technically also call this an Iron Man run. Tanner understands, and teaches me the secret of Woo, a special realm that doesn't have many players on it so I can solo things in peace. I quickly travel to Woo, and then finally enter Galvanos Tower. The Harvest Lord challenged me to a by the books tournament rules staring contest, but I make an illegal play and challenge him to a children's card game instead. He's captured Susie, who has a staff of her own, so the entirety of Arthur's quest was stupid and pointless. Was he just wanting me to dispose of the evidence of his crimes? At any rate, the battle with the Harvest Lord begins. Now that the Harvest Lord is out of the way, he reveals that I activated his trap card, Widespread Ruin, and he's about to blow up Triton Avenue. I go outside and Susie tells me that he wanted to raise an army of rotting fodders armed with storm magic to go destroy Wizard City, which honestly doesn't sound like too bad of an idea. He also rigged the Tempest Nexus, some cool storm device, to explode by causing a feedback loop that conveniently activates if the protagonist of this game conveniently does it after conveniently discovering his location via a ritual that conveniently requires items dropped by his minions in a plan that is so convoluted that it only works if all of the above statements are true. Because I hate convenience and honestly want to see how long it'll take for Triton Avenue to explode, I don't use the teleporter Susie told me to use to get there. And now I make a controversial decision in terms of the future of the run. I decide to do the side quests that are offered for my school specifically in order to gain more helpful spells to ensure the survival of this run. If you find this unforgivable and sinful, I can understand, and it was nice having you watch up to here. If not, I thank you for sticking around. In this case, my professor of balance, Arthur Weathersfield, says that I need to go talk to other schools to see what makes them special, specifically the fire, ice, and storm schools, by talking to their student representatives, or in the ice school's case, the teacher themselves. Of course, I quickly stop in the storm school to talk to the professor about the Tempest Nexus in Triton Avenue, and he gives me the Master Key, something that, if I smack the Nexus 3 times with it, will fix the whole about to go nuclear problem, because prodding the about to explode metal thing will definitely not make things worse for us all. Lydia Greyrose, the professor of the ice school, says that her school is the best because a big raven turned some big giants long ago into popsicles, and the giants became glaciers or something. Tenor then asked me if I beat the Harvest Lord, even though it was a bit delayed, and I say I've beaten it. Regina Flametalon, student rep of the fire school, says that fire magic came from ancient dragons, and that it's so good it is the best magic ever. Sensing a pattern here. Once I end the conversation, she immediately switches to another topic, some sort of side quest thing about a science fair, but I don't really care, so I say no and walk away. Boris Tallstaff of the Storm School is up next, and he's hanging out in the library. He says that storm magic is the best, and without it, the fire school wouldn't exist. After finishing his dialogue, he immediately switches voices from a slight southern drawl to a news reporter's voice, and that freaks me out so much that I deny his quest and head on my way. I return to the balance professor, who tells me that all of the schools are technically right in their own way and that balance is really cool. Finally, something I can agree with, even though I think that every other school just has a massive ego. When he realizes how sinful this entire Nuzlocke is going to be, he sends me to go stand in a pond in the commons to be baptized and to cleanse all the built up dirt from running around doing everyone's chores. I swiftly go there and stand in the water, only to realize that they must have put some crazy magical chemicals in the water, because I see a strange seraph lady called Judgment who tells me the water is cool and that I'm cool for standing in water. She talks a bit more and then vanishes in a puff of blinding light, and I'm so shaken to the core that I can't properly see, and run back to Arthur for help, and also to Sue for putting my eyes in danger. In order to shut me up, he teaches me the glasses spell, which boosts my accuracy of one spell when I use it. Of course, this doesn't begin to cover my legal fees, but he teaches out of a suitcase. What were you expecting? I don't add precision to my deck just yet, but I will in a future episode to help with Storm Magic's abysmal hit rates. After hitting the Tempest Nexus with the Master Key, I've officially saved Triton Avenue. Well, I will have done so after I quickly escort Susie Griffinbane to her brother Arthur, and then talk to Sergeant Muldoon, who thanks me for my work and leaves me with two options of how to proceed, either going through Firecat Alley or Cyclops Lane. I'll let you guys decide what I should do, and also let you guys choose whether or not I can fight the Kraken back in Triton Avenue or not. As always, have a good day, folks, and if you happen to enjoy the video, subscribe, like, comment, or whatever you fancy.